you open up the presentation with this idea of a global competition and dynamics. And a lot of that has been driving what we are putting into our city center. The big stuff, financial center, integrated resort, gardens, the infrastructure of the whole promenade. And I think Mr. Berridge has very rightly pointed out that the next step we need to do is to go onto the small stuff. There's another dynamic that's a little bit that I want to touch upon. Because in the face of global competition, global dynamics, there's also been some cynicism and say that our city, the big stuff, caters and runs along with these dynamics in attracting investments, global talents, but there's something missing for the locals. And it is an aspiration for our city to be both a distinctive global city and an endearing home. And so the cynicism is that, oh, this big stuff in the city center is not for me, it's not for the locals. What are your thoughts on this, Mr. Berridge? And what advice would you give to planners and leaders of
I think it's a question that every city is grappling with, and the answer is different in every city. Is this turned on? You hear me? Hello? Yeah. It was fascinating coming from Toronto. I am giving the opposite speech in Toronto, which is that we are the nicest place to live in the world, if a little bit cold. But we had better watch out because we do not have the big stuff. And there's a tension between these big, medium, and small components of a city. And they all have to be there for a successful place. It's a dynamic tension. It keeps changing. You've now got a situation where London and New York are getting too expensive for any normal human being to live. And this is going to be a big problem for them because it means that if you've got, you just come out of university and you've got a fantastic new startup idea, you probably can't afford it to do it in London or New York any longer. So, and it's worrying those cities, so they are having to respond to it. So the mix for, and then as I said before, going to Sydney, Sydney's rather like Toronto. I mean, Sydney, I could live there, go swimming every day and have a nice life and, eat at the bar, have a barbecue every evening. And who cares about global competitiveness? It's La La Land. But they, they're a long way from anywhere, and they have to worry that they could just be a nowhere place. And it's very tough because whether we like it or not, global competition for talent and for business does exist. And especially if you are an immigrant city, and interestingly, Singapore is, and Sydney is, and Toronto is, that's what keeps you healthy, is that endless refresh from immigration. You've got to make sure that there are jobs and that there are places to live for the new people coming to town, so that you can keep new people coming to town. Otherwise, you can end up like Paris, which is a glorious place to visit, but frankly, has a very unlikely economic future because it has not been able to refresh itself in that fashion. So coming back to Singapore, you have done the big things incredibly well. I mean, your airport is the best ranked in the world. You're the third best financial center. You've got a fantastic university. I think that the quality of life is a very important competitive dimension. It's right, those are the top four, I would say. It's basically universities, airports, financial services, and quality of life are the four things that drive the modern city. And if you are shown to be slipping or a bit low down the ranking on that from objective outside observers, then that's the stuff you have to do. So how does your city respond to it? I think you need to think a lot about arts and culture. I think a lot about sports and recreation. I'm not sure you're not known as a sporting city, and I may have this wrong, but I don't think there's a lot of sporting activity that goes on here. But what's great about sports is it's a very middle draw. It pulls people in from very low and middle income levels, and they get really excited by it. I think you've got to make sure that you don't just cater to these huge, big floor plate financial drivers, because the people who work in them are human beings as well. They actually want to go and have a beer, or they want to go and have a pepper crab, or they want to go and do something. So you've got to make sure that that world is there for them, because those people are very footloose. They go to Hong Kong if they don't like it here. In terms of your question about the cynicism, because I encounter this a lot in Toronto, everybody says, why do we need to be globally competitive? We should, live for our locals. We should live for ourselves. Our own healthy neighborhoods are more important than new office towers. They don't understand the way the food chain works. If you are a city in the top dozen, as we both are, you actually don't have a choice but to run like hell. But you need to run very cleverly. And I suspect that's how you need to change strategies now.